Hey, I got the wonderful privilege of being here with a good friend of mine, Reed Mack Perryman. Now, in Calico Rock, it wasn't just Reed Perryman, it was Reed Mack Perryman.
We all had middle names.
Yeah, there's a reason behind that because Reed Perryman ran the hardware. That's William Reed, right?
We got our name from our maternal grandmother. Her name was Rosie Reed.
Okay, I kind of wondered about that. Okay,
That was her maiden name.
Reed, the reason I'm here is a lot of young people today don't understand what Calico Rock was like and what it was like years ago. So now tell me, how many years young are you today?
Well, I'll be 90 my next birthday.
90 your next birthday.
Yeah, next March. I was born in 1931.
1931.
And in the little yellow house that's across the street from the library.
Okay.
That's where I was born.
Right there where Aunt Virgie was at, right there next to where Aunt Virgie
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Smith officiated at my birth, and he died. This was March. He died September or October. Had
of the same year.
The same year, yeah. He had a stroke on his way to Little Rock, actually, and he had a car. That was 1931, but he had a car, probably a Model A, Model T, or I don't something.
Yeah. So tell me, growing up during those times, what was it like at home for you back then as a child?
Well,
how many kids was there in your family?
I had a sister. Actually, I had a brother. My brother was born. Well, he came a little bit early. He would have lived in these days, but then he was born prematurely, and he didn't live very long. But Mom and Dad gave him a name, and he's buried in the Trimble Campground Cemetery, where a lot of my relatives, my grandfather Perryman and Rosie Reed Perryman.
That's right.
And that's a long, long story there about her, but I won't get into that. But of how she got here she was from Texas. Well, a good story. I'll tell you that sometime.
Okay. One of my next questions is about that, but let's talk a little bit about what lifestyle was then, and then I want to hear about how your family got here.
Okay. Like I said, I was up there. We moved to a house over on the west side of town when I was a toddler, I guess. And I don't know how long we lived there, but we moved from there to a house. You know, houses have names. And we moved to the William Wayland house. The William Wayland house was a big 2-story yellow house on the lot where the Mitchell's Pharmacy is right now.
Oh, okay, okay.
And
which, by the way, you ran that pharmacy for many years.
I built
that was Perryman Drug Store for a long time.
I did. I built that store and moved out there in 1969. So sold it to my daughter first, and then she sold it to the Mitchells in about 2000.
Right. Now, when you was growing up, did you have running water in the house?
No. Well, we may have had. I'm not sure about that, but
indoor plumbing?
No indoor. Oh, definitely none of that. Probably didn't have. We may have had a well.
Right.
I'm sure we did at a house later on.
Right.
I think it was in the late 30s before the water system was developed. I believe it was here in Calico Rock, the first. And
so most of the houses here in town had outhouses out back.
Yeah, all did. Yeah. It was just the way of life.
A lot of them coal oil lamps still yet then, or some electricity?
Well, let me
expound on
take you a little bit further. Okay. We lived in that house, the William Wayland house.
Right.
When I was I've got some pictures of that. When I was out playing with my dog, old Ben, and I may have been 2 years old. I had on what was called sort of a white, looks kind of like a dress in that picture, but I may have been 2 years old. but I recall, the only thing I recall about that house, right across the street, there was a blacksmith shop,
Really?
Orville Carrico, and he had a gasoline pump out front, Sinclair Gas,
Uh-huh.
and you can see that in that picture that I've got somewhere, and anyway, nevertheless, we moved from that house back over on the west side of town, and lived in that house from about till I was about 5 years old, I guess.
Okay.
Now, across the street, there was a family by the name of Hagar. And then the Marchants, Joe Marchant family was directly across the street.
Now, as
And
you're,
then up on the corner, though, and I can't think where,
where Mondlin lived up there?
no, we're over on the west side of
Oh,
town.
okay, okay, you're on the other side.
Yeah, up the street from the old Methodist church.
Yes, yes,
Up
okay,
there,
up the hill.
all the way
there.
to the top.
Yes,
Right there on the left, on the corner, is what I'm talking about.
yes,
Rex Cook lived there.
okay.
Okay.
Now, you're mentioning a lot of family
Okay,
names
well, that's
here.
just Hagar.
So, yeah.
Hagar.
Yeah, a lot
Well,
of
what
these-
the reason I'm telling you this is because from about 3 years old that I moved to on that side till
Right.
about 5 when we moved again, that a little girl right
Uh-huh.
across the street, Johnny Faye Hagar, and we played together,
right,
and her mother taught us our ABCs, our numbers, and when I started to school,
right,
we didn't have kindergarten then. When I started to the first grade, I could read, sorta,
right, Right.
Jack and Jill went up
Right.
the hill and
right.
things. But I could read, and they moved me to the 3rd grade.
Oh,
to read with the 3rd graders.
wow, and you was
But
how old?
anyway, that's-
Was you
that's-
just 5 years old then?
From 3 to 5. you
Yeah.
know. And we'd sit at she would sit in the chair, and we'd sit at her feet, and she would teach us, so like I say,
Yeah.
so kindergarten or preschool,
Yeah, that was your
It
preschool,
helps.
wasn't it? Yeah.
it helps. That was what I had.
Now, talking
Okay,
about
we-
school.
go ahead.
Talking about your school then.
No, I want to talk about this other first.
Okay, you
We
go ahead.
moved from there. We moved from there to the rock house at the foot of bottom of Red Lane.
Right. Oh,
That
I know
was-
that's that.
That was the last house
Uh-huh.
that had electricity.
Wow.
Houses further on used coal oil lamps,
Right.
kerosene,
Right.
and but we had a well. We had an outhouse, by the way, a
Right.
two-holder.
Too old.
Two-holder.
I never did understand
Yeah, I
that.
didn't. Well, we won't
we'll
get into that
We'll get that
part.
off the camera after a while.
But anyway, necessarily, it had a well,
Right.
and it was an electric pump on it. It had the old pump handle thing,
Yes,
but
I
it had
remember.
been taken off, and whoever was there earlier
Mhm.
had made a it was a continuous
Bucket dump.
buckets, yeah,
Mhm.
little small buckets, and
I've
then
seen
go
them.
down into the well, pick the well
Yeah.
up, pour it out, and it'd come out through the faucet on the
Yeah.
pump,
Yeah.
So anyway,
And
you
you
just
just
flip the
take it.
switch, and it'd start going around, make the circle down through, and you'd hang your bucket or whatever you
Until
wanted
you
there
filled it up.
until you filled it up, which took a little while, but that was. We had running water there.
There you go.
That's all we had. We had
Right.
a dipper and a bucket and a wash pan
Yeah.
and
Well, tell me a little bit about the school too. Now. You
okay. Now
Now,
then,
what was it like
there-
at school then?
we lived in that house till I was 14.
Right.
My grandfather lived with us, and my mother's dad, and my mother, my dad always said that my mother raised me because with his job, he left about 5:30 in the morning, along the time maybe or 6, and then he sometimes didn't get home till 8 or so.
Right.
And he was the consignee, they call him, or something like that. But anyway, he had the Mobil Oil, Magnolia Petroleum Company is what they called it then.
Right.
Gasoline came in on tank cars,
Yep.
and they had a pump that pumped it out of the tank cars under the street to the bigger tanks that
Right.
they had, and then they sold by the barrel actually.
Right.
Yeah, barrel in the back of a truck. They didn't have trucks like they have now for, and put it in the
Right.
ground like they do.
Right.
And they had the pumps that you pump up, and it was a glass.
Yep.
I think you've seen them
I've
too.
seen them. I sure
Yeah.
have. That's
Yeah,
how
they're
you knew when you got a
antique
gallon.
things.
You
Yeah.
fill it up.
It held, I believe. So people bought gas by 5 gallon. Give me 5 gallons of gas, and it was about, I think something like 14, 15 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And or give me $1 worth of gas.
There you go. I could stand a little bit of that today. Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to close out with this question, then we'll come back
All
on
right.
the next session with the next.
Yeah.
But the schoolhouse, was it
Yep.
like multiple rooms or
Okay,
how
it was just the one building, the old building. You've seen pictures of it around, I know. That was we only had the one building.
grade school, high school,
Grade school,
everything?
grade
all of it?
school. Well, the bottom there were on the lower floor. There were 4 large rooms.
Right.
The first grade was on the northwest corner,
Right.
and we might have had a few second graders in there. And then directly as you're staying north but going east to that corner
Right.
was the rest of the second and the third grade.
Right.
Moving back to the southwest
Yeah.
corner then was the 4th, part of the 5th, and then over in the southeast corner was the 5th and the rest of the
6th.
5th and the 6th.
Right.
Now that's the 1 through 6 there, and then they'd go what they called upstairs,
Yeah.
which was the 7 through 12.
Right. Junior
And
high.
there were two, one coming from the south going up and one coming from the west, and they met up here,
How many
staircase.
How many did you normally have graduate every year back then?
Oh,
15, 20?
maybe
Yeah.
15 to 20, maybe.
15 to 20.
Yeah.
Times changed a little bit, hasn't
Well, a lot, yeah. And I had Miss Hattie, and Miss Hattie Kroom was my first grade teacher. Miss Wilkerson was the third grade teacher. I skipped the second grade because I was,
You could already read.
oh, I could already read, I could already multiply, divide, and all that. And so I skipped the second grade and went straight to the third grade. And the fourth grade was where we started having here we got 6 weeks tests, started that. And then the 5th and the 6th and
On up.
on up, yeah.
Well, listen, I'm gonna end this session. We'll come back with another session in just a minute.
Okay.
With Reed, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened from high school on there. Okay.
Well, let me tell you a little bit further about the upstairs here. It was also the auditorium where we had study hall, but it was also the school auditorium where they had plays, and it didn't have curtains, but it had a roll down thing that had advertising on it from people like that. And that's where but it was where we came for, a lot of other things.
Graduation and stuff like that.
Graduation was always in the gym.
Yeah.
And the baccalaureate was always at the Methodist church down here on the corner.
Yeah.
Then.
Right down in town.
Yeah, I mean it's that way every year.
All right, we're gonna end this section. We'll come
Go
right
ahead.
back with another.
Go
Okay.
ahead, yeah.